what is the thing that you're most passionately working on right now, where you say, okay, if I tell people about one part of this project, this is what I'm going to tell them about, and what do you do there?
Well, I have a very pragmatic approach, a business-like approach. So I'm not coming from a design perspective, and I respect. I mean, we just had a colleague of mine who you also happen to know, Bob, and I. We interviewed a person who Anne, who comes, knows exactly about the design aspect and the customer relationship and how to build that. That is not my field of expertise, but where I am absolutely, um, I know, I mean, I'm excellent at it, is how does it make sense to bring it, or when does it make sense to bring in circular principles into your business? And the
Mm-hmm.
one thing is really resource scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with resource scarcity, but also the creative agency that CEOs ought to have. Also, because I mean, your 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 purpose as a CEO is also to make sure that the company is going to exist in future generations. So we do have more and more a problem with resource scarcity. And so this brought me to the field of looking at, okay, what do we do, or how do we create value? Then I stopped and I thought, are we really creating value, or are just we calling it, like in the financial industry there, you're calling basically, the financial industry is calling everything value creation when it is in fact a value extraction,
Uh-huh.
value depletion. And so I'm thinking, okay, so how can we, if we buy already the asset, the raw material, how can we make sure that it stays ours, so that we can reuse it, that we can repurpose it, that we can basically, contribute to a cost reduction, but also cost control
Mm-hmm.
and also an asset control.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this led me really into the circular economy. And also, well, I'm very adamant and very for regenerative approaches. Not necessarily from an agriculture perspective, but everything. And I've noticed that many research papers which were oriented towards circular economy are moving now towards regenerative
Mm-hmm.
and restoring and regenerative. And this led me basically to my side project, which is the extended shareholder return, and how to make sure between boards and their CEOs, how can we help and support, or the board help and support the CEO in moving into another, or taking into account um, other business models, other considerations
Mm-hmm.
through the resource scarcity. And the one thing let me say it like this. I think that at one point in time, we're going to move linear principles, linear supply chains, and circular principles, that they will move closer and closer. And there are people outside, with, like Deborah Dull, for instance, who's in the US, and she says, well, every single circular principle is basically is being built on the foundation of a linear supply chain, and she's
Mm-hmm.
right. And so I'm trying to bring all these elements together,
Mm-hmm.
and I must say it's absolutely fascinating, and especially because there are two things which are for me mind blowing, and which where I consider that we need to spend some more time at the senior level and together with the boards. You have many companies, most companies have circular projects
Mm,
running, pilots, but they never scale it. So
mm,
they kind of do not understand what is the positive effect. And there are people
okay.
like Bob and I, we had a discussion with like Anne. We can talk about what I love what she was saying is that sustainability people have a thinking two level,
Mm,
when all others, I mean marketing and have the thinking one level, and how to train also sustainability people to think, thinking one,
mm,
and to know how to make it enticing, attractive for
mm,
customers, but also
mm,
inside the business to make it run. And
yeah.
the other thing is there are also a lot of people who have, or companies who are living circularity and who are basically putting the company at risk.
Mm,
And it's about not to say to finger point, it's saying, okay, where are you now? And how can we accelerate you to go into a more resilient, innovation driven approach? Because circularity will definitely require a lot of innovation.
mm,
Because if we stop using this material, we need to to replace it by another one.
mm,
So it's
yeah.
it demands from us to think completely differently, or to get out of our comfort zone. Efficiency, the efficiency process we had, or thinking we had, or we used for 30, 40 years,
Mm,
and be a little bit more, yeah, what is still needed? How can we cooperate with someone else? How
mm,
can we build ecosystems, dynamic ecosystems? Paul Hopcraft talks about that a lot. Um, how to prepare the future, how to get into an industry where the core business is not of the initial company, is not there yet.
mm,
So there's so many things to do,
yeah.
and which I find absolutely
Mm.
it's fascinating, I must say.
Yeah, it is. And when I, coming from the outside into this, and we've talked a couple of times about that. I mean, a lot of people, for me, this is also a branding, because for me, coming from marketing and sales and from the tech angle, right? This is for me is a, because you told me you don't use sustainability or ESG in your publications, which is, I think, is great, because this kind of stuff has a branding problem and a sales problem, I think, by far, because always when we think about that, it's like, oh, it's like, okay, sustainability is like going to the gym. I should do it, but I don't want to do it because it's a cost. It's a cost of time, and I have to pay for the gym also, or whatever. It's like if it was an expensive gym. And what I like about your approach, and what I understand also about your approach, is that no, we are going to make this in a way that actually the stakeholders are going to be happy. The C-level people are going to get their bonus, the company is going to make their money. Maybe we have to invest a little bit in research, or we have to think really hard about some things, but maybe we're going to unlock, let's say, the circularity of one raw material or something like that. Maybe we need to, I don't know. And my question would be, and maybe it's a hard one, I don't know, with all these data centers popping up, back to the AI, the question, back to the pivot, what is
Yes.
it? Google invests 600 billion alone, in 2026, and maybe the overall investment in data centers, I'm not sure if it was like 900 billion or something like that. I mean, this obviously, I think, like this, the usage of tokens is going to explode.
Hmm.
um, this is a very I don't know, what do you call it, an asset that gets destroyed by using it, a GPU. Yeah, it's heat and transistors and all these kinds of things. It's a very bad combination for for these technological miracles. Is Could we apply your model to data centers? Have you been doing some work around that as well? Can you give us some pointers? Because I think that is going to become a huge problem
Ye-
actually,
Yes.
because we need tokens.
Well, right now I have already studied, we studied some almost 40 companies, listed companies. It can be also used for unlisted, family owned or
Mhm.
privately owned companies. But the for my from what I'm doing is basically um, the CFO has already all the information.
Mhm.
So there is nothing which is, I mean, if we have some ESG reporting, it might be good to confirm certain aspects.
Mhm.
But I'm not approaching it this way. So it means that it can be used by asset managers, wealth managers, can be used by pension funds, it can be used by reward specialists and committees, it can be used by and should be used by boards from the CFO and the CEO, because it's really about metrics people know.
Mhm.
Only that I'm expanding them in certain ways so that it is about, just again, making people aware of certain losses or depreciations that you're having and that where you're losing
Mhm.
the value of the asset. But now coming back to the data centers. No, I haven't done it yet, even though I've started doing some technology companies. But what I did was working with my master students. I think it was 2 years ago, where not even 2 years ago, where we looked at data center and how you can really make sure that they're running um, in a more sustainable way? Would it
Mhm.
be the consumptions? And we know every one of us who has to do with technology knows exactly how much. I mean, the cooling of the servers, of the data center, the water that you need, the
Mhm.
usage. I mean, and the quality of the water. And I think that. I mean, Finland has proven already to started to do things which are pretty innovative, either emerging a data center in the sea,
Mhm.
or to use it or to build it underneath a whole living area, so that it could basically function as a heat pump. Uh, so so and I've published last Sunday a LinkedIn newsletter about a company who has done already in 1718, when they started building here in Germany. It is a family owned company, a new factory.
Mhm.
They upgraded it and they are using photovoltaic heat pumps, water usage, everything all tied together in such a way that they are no more paying basically. I mean, it's the hour of
Mhm.
energy is costing them maybe 16 cent
Mhm.
compared to what the others are paying. And I think that also, when this is the reason why I'm spending so much time with asset-based companies
Mhm.
and heavy asset heavy companies, because I think we need to revisit everything we have done so far when it comes to water usage, also in with CNC machines, heavy production machines, the heat. So but this has to do in the way, how can we preserve really the assets and as well as the capital
Mhm.
that we are putting into a company. So we have been way too, and also the governments have been way too generous with us when it comes to for companies on how to pay, the amount that companies pay for energy, for water usage, and etc. Especially water usage. I mean, it is something where we have to revisit everything, and
Mhm.
which is also a good thing, because I mean, the times are over that look at phosphor, for
Mm,
instance. We need, I mean, we know that we have reserves for 30 years max.
mm,
And now with the African continent also, growing and blossoming,
mm,
also from an economic perspective, we don't know how long we will have them. So it's up to us also to reconnect in a certain way with some maybe traditions that we have put aside.
mm, mm. Is it? I mean, I hear a lot of about also that we can, even with some old ideas, combining them with new ideas and things like that. And but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of C-level execs and CEOs, when they see this, they believe you because I mean clearly they believe you, but how can we make this profitable? Like how do you have a like an example where you can say, you know what, we start a pilot, this has already been done. Um,
Yeah.
we start here and then we go there and we end up probably with new business models for you at the very end. We'll have that because we're going to use the asset in ways that you don't even think about,
Yes,
like
there
stuff
are
like that.
definitely there are many, many, many examples. I mean,
Mhm.
just to say that
Just one.
circularity is not good because it costs us so much. It is how should I say? It's an easy answer because if I'm looking back at let's take for instance um, Rolls-Royce Aerospace with the engines, the plane engines. They have built already since years, and they're doing it in a very profitable way.
Mm,
I think in 21, 20, 21, 22 almost, they were not doing so well, but it had to do with some litigation of an old engine type, which
mhm,
cost them, I mean, an extraordinary amount of money. But I mean, they're doing very well, and it's the power by the hour. So
mm,
they are basically keeping the engines. They don't sell them anymore to Airbus or Boeing or other companies, and they keep the data. So they are able to say, okay, listen, we've noticed that these pilots, the way you train the pilots, you're using too much energy, and let us show you how to do that.
mm,
This is an example.
mm,
BMW has created, I mean, they're really moving as fast as they can with down to every single, um, how do you say that again? Bolzen.
oh, that I
No,
don't know.
yeah, but
Yeah,
the things that you are okay. So every single little pieces.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Now there are for sure some further examples about okay, what about the steel? Will the steel be have the same type of specification when if we reuse it? But this is also something which is valid in the construction field, with
mm,
steel beams. How can you reuse them? But these are, how should I say?
yeah,
It's like the open source, in the development. The more you bring in people who are collaborating and
mm,
helping to solve the problems, the more you will have them. We do
yeah,
have so many ideas. The thing is for me, and I spoke with someone who is also in the field of the defense industry in the UK, and this person told me, I mean, circularity is nothing new. We did it already 50 years ago. So I said,
mm,
well, let us do it again. Okay. So, and let's step away from the planned obsolescence, which was there, which was very convenient and is still very convenient. Would it be for T-shirts? Would it be for whatever,
mm,
for razor, or etc. But also someone else who told me, you know, I mean, we have everything. The thing is often, I spoke with someone here who an industry in the tires field, and they came to me and said, "Well, we are thinking about planting dandelions." And I said, You're not going to tell me that you're going to plant dandelions, then to use chemicals to, if you can extract the liquid out of the dandelion and see how you can engineer it in a artificial way and use it. Yes, but I think it is up to us to be creative, and but also to know when are you under evaluating your assets, because you're paying a lot of investments in it, and or you're commoditizing yourself. I mean, there is a beautiful example. This company did everything what they needed to do. I mean, rightly, and they completely commoditized themselves with lab-grown diamonds. When they came out in 24 with them, the price, the ounce price of diamonds fell from $6,000 to 600.
Jesus. Yeah.
So, and you had also competitors starting at the same entry point, but lower than yours. So, what are you doing with that? So, it forces you basically to be really innovative and to come out with stuff. But also in the construction industry, look at what Sika in Switzerland is doing with some new processes, and the way they're treating the material, what you can use for construction. In Sweden with the steel industry, how they have constructed an ecosystem of partners with LKAB, SSAB, Vattenfall, Volvo Group, and subsidized also by the Swedish government. There are absolutely some examples where you can get inspired, and also where you can definitely, if your products are maybe not regenerative or circular, where you can make sure that your environment in where you produce is cost effective, and that is the first way.
And what I find really interesting about that is that you mentioned, like, way in the beginning, and I wrote this down, the data of the engines and the use, kind of the use, the best practices of the use that was in that data through Rolls-Royce. And what I really find interesting is this is also an asset. And I think maybe it was, and it still is, an underappreciated asset. And when I hear this, my AI brain goes off, of course, when I say, let's machine learn the hell out of this data. And that's probably what they did. And this is an asset that is just super underappreciated, where it makes such a big difference. I mean, there are some best practices when you drive a car, that you don't go to 200 and then you stop and you try to go to like these kinds of things, like efficient driving, like in a way where it doesn't speed you up so much. I don't know a lot about cars, but it doesn't speed you like the effect that you're going to get, and the damage that you're going to do to the engine, and how much gasoline you're going to burn. That is just crazy. And I'm wondering, and we talked about this before, it's like kind of two questions in one. You led a course at university with some students about disruption, I think quite recently, if I remember this correctly. Yes. Quite recently. And I'm wondering, if we think about like data, which is a great asset to have, right? It never goes bad. It's there, or it's movable. What should we? I don't know if you had other topics in that seminar, but what should we do with these kinds of models with the data? And for example, if you have a good one, we talked about SAP. What should these guys actually do? For example, I think that might have been part of the curriculum, but correct me if if I wrote it down wrong.
Well, with SAP, how should I say? SAP is huh, um, is a multi-layered topic
Mm.
because if I heard you well, is I mean how to is basically I mean how is it how should SAP use AI, or what would be the benefits of
Well,
data for
well,
SAP?
I heard a lot about like byproducts being underappreciated, and the one that caught my attention, just because also it lies more in the field of my expertise, is data here. And I'm sure that a lot of other assets are byproducts and could be used in better ways. But I'm just asking the question, how can we use maybe these data byproducts better? And I know that we talked about SAP, not sure if it really fits. And we talked about what you were doing with your students. So maybe so that we just get into maybe a concrete example or an idea that you have there. Yeah,
So the thing that I did with my students was to ask them, okay, we took or we chose together that we would take H&M,
hmm,
the fashion company,
sure.
and to see what could be done there. And
Mm,
so from a circular perspective, we chose also the product that we would like to work on. It was jeans, so the students chose
mhm,
the jeans. And so I said to them, okay, so now that we have done some more circular produced jeans
mhm,
and also innovative jeans,
mm.
because the thing is with, and we talked about the water usage earlier. I mean, a pair of jeans requires depending how it has been produced, but between 650 liters to way above 800 liters of water.
Mm.
Now, I know someone who has been able to produce a sustainability proven approach jeans production with only 2 liters of water.
Oh my God. Okay.
So see how much innovation, and also I mean there is also, and the passion these guys are putting in it. And I mean I can only have admiration for the work that they're doing, but
Yeah.
also for me as an employer to make sure that I'm definitely keeping these nuggets of innovation, because these are people, we need people who have this, how shall I say, this ambition to solve something. Would
Mm,
it be from a dying perspective? Would it be from a water consumption, from the quality of the fiber and textile fiber and etc. So we worked on that, and then I said, well, I'm not really I'm not really satisfied. If I would be now the chairwoman of the board and also the CEO, I'm not really.
It's,
It's nice, but
it's not
how
it's
can
not
I
good enough. 800 to 2 liters.
no, but what can I do with that? And I said, well, how can you make sure that we are going into that we are propelling this idea in such a way that it is going to give us also some competitive edge. So
Mm,
the students and I, we talked, and they were first, they didn't really answer what I was pushing, and I said, well, listen, if I'm sitting, okay, I have now produced my genes in such a way that we know it gives us a good conscience, we know we have a good
mm,
product, but
mm,
who tells me, I mean, do I really get the most out of it?
mm,
Because we are living in a time where I think that the business opportunities are there to reshape the industries, not the industry.
mm,
I said, so what could we do?
mm,
So let's talk. Maybe I said to them, I went to an art exhibition and I met the French founder of a startup in Paris, Fabrique, who basically dismantles all the cotton fibers, and with a vegetarian glue, she creates bricks, and which can be used for store concepts, for interior architecture. But she's trying now also to conceive them in such a way that they can be also used outside. So I said, so what could we do with that? I mean, I like this idea, but I mean, I want to still have the control of it. What can we do more? And I said, well, how about approaching another other big name in another industry? And I said, well, how about IKEA?
Yeah.
Why not molding all these? I mean, rest of my, if I have, I don't know how many thousands of tons left of jeans and t-shirts and other products, why not making a deal and working together with IKEA and creating a new products, but also using the synergies of the two companies, so that basically my output does not only become my input, but also the input of someone else. And I think that we have so many areas where we could do that, instead of, of thinking inside innovation as a siloed thing. Because IKEA, by the way, H&M, IKEA, Adidas, and others are already working, I think, since 7 or 8 years on a research project on textile. But why not also approaching it not only from the chemists and the subject matter experts working together, but also from a business perspective, and see how we could reshape the industries. And this leads me to the concept of arenas, which has been promoted by Rita McGrath, Professor Rita McGrath, since 2013. Alexander Osterwald also took it over, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, to basically reshape and recreate new industries when we know that the numbers of industries are declining because everyone is becoming a technology company too.
Yeah. That's a very good point, and actually, and I love the synergy angle that you use. You're let's say you're a niche company, but you're using a bigger company that has a lot of distribution why don't you use my product, but you can also make new products, and I'm going to, by the way, distribution network and things like that. And she turned clothes into bricks, into interior, into art. It's beautiful, huh? That's
in
beautiful.
furniture, absolutely.
In furniture, but when you see the tech angle, I mean, I have to ask them, where do you see AI coming into this and disrupting things? If everybody is becoming a tech company, which use cases, or what do you see there?
Well,
Working with it
I
every day.
think that I don't like, how shall I say it? I know that every one of us can be disrupted from every angle. You never know exactly who's going to either make want to have a buyout, or things like that, or acquire you, uh, or buy you and kill you. Kill your business.
Yeah.
But I think disruption for me is not really interesting. For me, it is more about, now from a business perspective, not from a financial perspective. It is way more interesting to see where there are some potential. And we will have to rethink. I think that, yeah, we will have to rethink how we're doing business. And this is the reason why I'm saying that we have most likely approximately 10 years of time window to basically redefine ourselves, because the ones who will be redefining themselves and and their markets
Mm.
will have a competitive advantage that the others won't.
Mhm.
So either they are, I mean, when was it? I think it was 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, when PwC published their their global CEO survey in 25.
I think so, yeah.
42% of CEOs did not know if their business would survive the next 10 years. I mean, sincerely, I mean, honestly, I mean, how can you say that? So
Yeah.
so we are missing here creative agency. But the thing is, I mean, to be fair to the CEOs, when we look at the pressure that is put on their shoulders, and for them to become, how did Russell Reynolds call them, the transformation catalysts, where
Mhm.
they have basically no place and no time anymore to do some real transformation, and
Mm.
that their mandate is often shorter than the ROI of their investments.
Mm.
So how can we do here something? And this is the reason why I'm working on my extended shareholder return
Mm.
project, because I think that we absolutely need to support CEOs in the transformation,
Mm.
um, and that we can build in accelerators to make sure that they can really fulfill their mandate, being a transformational catalyst during their mandate. Um, um, but what was your question again? I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
it was basically about how AI can disrupt or
Yeah.
innovate there. But I have maybe another one. Maybe we should, if you say, I mean, of course, the C-level execs have a lot of pressure, especially in fast changing times like these. It's insane. I can hardly keep up, and I love AI stuff. And this, but maybe we should teach them how to argue with LLMs, and then it would actually help, like putting your framework in front of them, and then just let them think it through with Claude or whatever LLM. I'm thinking, because I'm thinking that if more people would use these tools like this, because it's a great thinking partner, a great catalyst. Not that they will give you all the best ideas and have to push back a lot, like otherwise we wouldn't be swearing at it. Yes, I was like two very calm people. Yeah, but yeah, but and then making the output tangible to their team by reducing the complexity and building a beautiful dashboard, a landing page. I don't know. Like, I
I,
don't know if that would be your advice, but it has been constantly through the last 6 months my advice since coding tools
yes,
became so easy to
yes.
use.
I think that there is a something which I just taught 10 days ago to some CFOs and future CEOs. And we were talking about transformation, and we were talking about RPA, robotic process automation. And I
Mm,
said,
mm,
how many of you know, I mean, which processes exist in your respective companies?
mm,
Most of them said, well, we know approximately what exists. And I said, no, you are the masters. You
mm,
are the masters. You
mm,
need to know every one, single one. That you're allowing someone, your people, to build new processes, absolutely. But you need to define which process is bringing you closer to
mm,
where you want to head and lead your company. Then your teams, you can bring them on board so that they know, and
mm,
then we have closed the discussion. But so I think that on one side it is absolutely necessary to know which are the best processes you need to fulfill what you want to achieve.
Mm.
And there will be people within your company who are way better than yourself. You
Yeah.
just need to know about it.
Hopefully.
And to decide with them what is necessary, what is not, having your discussion.
Mm.
But definitely AI is something that can help you. Also, would it be only from an R&D perspective?
Mm.
Can help you, to propel ideas, be critical, yourself also from a business model perspective, what would be better. Also to, for instance, we were talking about, in this class, we were talking about um, building ships. There was one person whose family is building barges. And I said, well, what can we do with barges? You
Mm.
know, how can we propel the company in such a way
Mhm.
that with lowering, lower water levels in the Rhine, for instance,
Mhm.
um, as an example, that we can still, that we can still flourish and blossom as a business. What
Mm.
can we do? With whom could we the competition? With whom could we work together, maybe to enter new markets which
Mm.
we have never been there
Mm.
before, and really transform? And let's use AI. In this case, it was Perplexity, it was Gemini, and Claude, to do some research, market research. What could be better done in a better way?
Mm.
And I definitely think that AI is a good thing. The Where I'm a little bit stunned is about people who are basically, or companies that are laying off um, people
Mm.
because of AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
There I think it is also the duty of a CEO to make sure that you offer as much as possible possibilities for your employees
Sure.
and for them to grow, but also help you to transform the company in its next chapter.
Mm.
And I think that you cannot do that alone. So I don't know. Even if you have a good board, there's a different level of
Mm.
discussion
Mm.
then which happens, on the field, on the at the operational strategic level. And I think that you need both sides. And I think that it makes me sad to see. I don't know if the rumors are true, yes or no, but reading it this morning that Amazon apparently uses also AI to boost, the engagement of customers.
Mm.
False engagement, clients or customer engagement on their website. Please, come on, be as creative as you used to be in the past.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very monolithic. I mean, you never know. There were some very other very well questionable practices like rebuilding certain products and adding it to your portfolio after you know that they work. I mean, because the product market fit is often the most expensive thing if you're
Yeah,
developing something, right? If
yeah,
you know, okay, people want this, we know how to manufacture and stuff. But okay, I mean, I hear you. For me, it's the same. And whether a company overhired and uses AI as an excuse, I mean, that is one thing that I think definitely also happens, to let people go, or genuinely thinks, we can automate them away. I'm always, and I think that this technology, especially LLMs, will allow us um, to do so much more that we couldn't do before, not using it only as a better RPA, like robotic process automation, that we now automate the hell out of this. I think so. Just like, because as you see it with coding, I always think, they think about developers. I think code is everything. Code is basically like, if you can code, you can generate everything. And we will see so many more opportunities generated with that, because now you can build software, if you would even call it that, for niches that it couldn't exist. You can just build it for yourself or for your team, or for one industry that is niche and with a niche within a niche, and create a micro SaaS and these things like that. And I mean, I think it's a tragedy if people are being let go now because this creativity is not there yet, or they think the tokens are too expensive and stuff like that. But my hope and my belief is that these things will kind of solve itself, and that
I think so.
we will need more of, like there's this famous example, more of everybody, like developers, and there's this famous example of accountants. I mean, did we need less accountants? No, we needed more. But the job description very much changed before Excel, after Excel, like this
Yes.
kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, so fingers crossed, right?
And see, reason why, I mean, I would not like to be in Christian Klein's shoes, because I mean, they have in total, I think it is 350,000 customers, out of which there must be 10% sitting in ERP, out of which I think not even half of them have migrated from R3 architecture. And so they have, how can you transform such a company? You can have so many ideas. I mean, SAP HANA is not the majority of the clients. I mean, I think that they have 20% of their clients which are sitting in corporate, which are basically making the 80% of their business, but 80% are sitting in mid-sized companies, and they will not change or migrate so easily. And then you have also the partners who are doing some custom SAP implementations and etc. So it's a huge, 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 huge mess. How can you bring that together? And I think that, I mean, they're doing a lot already since many years to try to push the whole boat in the right direction. But in the end, I don't know if SAP will be the same in 5 years from now, also with regard to their customer base. Because with exactly what you're saying, we can basically now build pretty easily with N8N and others. We can pretty easily say exactly what we want and how we want it. And also in the production or supply chain, there will be some additional new players that are coming out and will help production companies to really fully use the potential of AI. So I think there's a whole rematch which is going on and which is going to happen, and which is the opportunity, for everyone. And it's the same with Amazon. Amazon has reached a peak and it needs to reinvent itself, because else it is going to slide down. And that is part of the life cycle of every company. Either you are able to create an S curve, or you're basically dying.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And maybe two thoughts around that. Like, these software companies, they have to be very careful not to be cannibalized by agents that just interact. Like I use Apple Pay, and I mean, I know my bank, but I don't care what my bank is because I use Apple Pay. And in a way, it's like that. It's super convenient. I use my watch, and the bank is reduced to a payment processor in the background. And that could happen to the Microsofts and SAPs of this world. What they do have is they have the enterprise relationships and the company relationships, so it's not going to be that easy. And to make an SAP is not, like there's this joke, make SAP 2.0, make no mistakes. dear Claude Code, there's this joke to vibe code this, I'm not sure that there. I mean, of course, now it's a joke, but will it be a joke in 10 years? I'm not even sure anymore. And to your point with Amazon, these companies have to be very careful not to be cannibalized even by Google, because what Google did, and I don't know if you watched the I/O presentation or like a summary. I mean, they reinvented their search, and I think that with where you also kind of an application is vibe coded for you, like the fitness tracker. Then you asked about, like, I don't know, like some regimen, and I'm sure that they will have agents that do stuff for you and open your booking.com on your phone and just go in there and make the reservation. And then you don't have the eyeballs on that anymore. And then in the end, everybody becomes like a back-end processing unit that happens to have a front end, but that serves no purpose anymore because I use natural language. I just do it. I don't care. If it's less than 100, just book me the hotel room and stuff like that. So that's going to be very innovative and disruptive times probably ahead.
I think so too. Well, I mean, to SAP, because it's a very financial and controlling or controller driven application. It's
Yeah.
basically if you're part of the, I mean, still it's not the majority of their clients who is happy about how SAP has been implemented.
Mm.
um, it is a money machine because you control everything, within the realm of your company, and it's a fantastic tool when it comes to for finance purposes and controlling ones. But yeah, I completely agree with you. But I think that the API as a service, and we see it also
Mm.
with SAP, where they are really looking to be in that place, is going to be also something which will be coming out, like in the financial services. Simon Torrance was also already talking a lot about that in 2018, also at the World Economic Forum. And I think that there will be disruption, yes, when it comes to the way we conceive the business.
Mm.
Um, Up to now, yes, definitely.
Mm.
So it's better if we're sitting not in the passenger seat, but at least a little bit also on the driver's seat.
Yes, and I mean, you work with this stuff every day, and not only from an economical theoretic perspective, but you build things, you check your formulas, like we said, like as a thinking partner. And maybe, do you have any tips for executives who want to get into this stuff? And I know it's a very broad question, but like where do you even start? What should you do in your day to day? Maybe from easier to harder, or anything you can think of. I think that would be very valuable to the listeners
Um,
and watchers.
what what I would say is take your three priorities, top priorities, which are on your agenda, and you know that you need to. These are, you discuss them with your board, or with your headquarters, or with whomever, and then explore. I mean, for sure, not please, not with real data, but at least from a conceptual point of view. I
Mm.
mean, look at what is going on in the market. Who are your competitors? Who are maybe some who could not be your competitors now, but who could become one, because
Mm.
your output could be an input for them, or they could. I mean, let me give you an example. Today, if you see a site, a website, you can ask Claude or whomever just to say, okay, this is the site
Mm.
that I like. Please
Mm.
rebuild me one. So
Yeah.
intellectual property is basically gone.
Mm-hmm.
So ask, I mean, about that. I mean, what else? How could you protect yourself? How I mean, how did others from other areas solve that problem? Go out and talk with people. I mean, definitely go out and talk with people, but also use, I mean, you will find your preferences with regard the LLM
Mm-hmm.
that you prefer. I usually have between 2 to 4 with whom I'm playing with, just to see who is giving me the better answer for my question, and explore, because you will grow so fast
Yeah.
in it and with it, and you will also maybe also appreciate more, even more, if some of your people, would it be from R&D, would it be from marketing, or whomever it is, just who comes and who are coming and knocking at your door. We need to have that, I mean, AI to, for formulas and etc. I would definitely, I mean, I would do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is two things. It is explore yourself around your three priorities, and secondly, talk with other executives who are using AI.
Mm. It's I also think to just throw yourself into the cold water, or however the saying goes, and this research angle about competitors, their business models, where's your advantage, where's their advantage, what could the future business model be that gets disrupted, and just throwing these ideas back and forth. I think that's also a lot of fun, and it's very valuable. And then you see where the actual kind of limits of these models are, because of course it's a very jagged intelligence. Sometimes it's just amazing, can build an awesome design, make it very clear, and I one shot it even many things that I thought that is just one prompt, and it looks still kind of amazing for that.
Yes.
But yeah, experiment and explore, and maybe to add and also build stuff, right? Like when you feel ready, it's just like, I have this presentation, and that's what I tell people all the time. I have this presentation. Don't build the boring slides, just build a website or something like that. You make your argument through the website, and then maybe it's even interactive, that people can
Yes.
click through it. And a formula like you did, very complex formulas, you can send it to people and just, what, put in your own numbers. I don't care. It's just
I mean,
it's there. Yeah,
what we've done is basically we made an assessment which we reduced to its origins, if I may
Mm.
say so,
Yeah.
where with 4 questions. I mean, the company or the executives exactly knows where they're standing with regard to their assets
Mm.
and their capital,
Mm.
and where there's some potential, to discuss and to see and to move further.
Yeah, yeah, and this is so cool, because it has simplicity, but it's also highly individual, and you can always ask someone who works with these things. You can say, is there an easy way we can calculate an ROI, or do we get to some number, even if it's high level, that we can work with, and that is at least directionally true, and that's. And sometimes it's really hard to come up with this stuff, but this thing is a pattern matching machine. I mean, that's all it does, right? Like that is
Yes,
so. That,
absolutely.
so that's the one thing. Yeah, yeah,
Good thing. Yeah, good points. Yes.
good. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to talk about towards the end? Because I exhausted all my questions.
No, I mean, I think it lasted already. Let's be
Well,
mindful of the time of the listeners.
it was great.
And no, I mean, it was a really pleasant discussion. And thank you so much for asking all these questions and
Uh,
pushing, further and etc.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and answering all my questions. That is also that's is super cool. I learned a lot. And well, and to our listeners, see you next time. And also thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.